Hey, how's it going, guys? Marco, Metalhead Rideshare Man here. How you guys doing tonight? Quick report on what I did today. Didn't work much. I did about 3.5 hours. Made about 75 bucks doing Uber and Lyft rides. Had a lot to do in between, so that's where I'm at on that one. Not too bad. Most of it came at bar time. Got really busy in our bar areas. Anyways, that's it. The other thing I want to do is I haven't thanked you guys lately. Just got started doing videos about 3 months ago, and I've already hit about 1,000 views through all the videos I've done. I know that's still not that much, but it's a start, so I want to thank all you guys for giving me those views and listening to any kind of info that I may give you on rideshare and gig economy type occupations. Now, the meat of my video today is going to be, why is Uber supposedly starting to rip off drivers when it comes to giving them their cut of the fares? Very simple. Uber needs to make a profit. They have to show a profit. It's becoming late in their monopoly pricing mode where they cut the rates to the point where they're trying to get all the revenue they can. As you know, a few months back, they were bought out by an entity called SoftBank, which is a huge entity that owns Sprint, Asurion, and other companies, I'm sure. What they did is they infused a few $1 billion, I think about 7 or more, into the company. That is when Travis Kalanick, who was the former CEO of the company, cashed out. And they bought a major stake in the company. So they are basically the highly influential business decision maker now. They're the ones that will direct what Uber will have to do in order to maintain their partnership with them. And some of the things that they probably have said to Uber was, you have to start showing profitability, and you do have to do an IPO in 2019. Which means when you do an IPO, in order to strike gold with an IPO, you have to show not only revenue, but you have to show some profitability too, along with extensive, phenomenal growth. That is the way it's been done forever, whether it be through stock prices or whatever. That's the way you get a great IPO to start. So what happens now is Uber has decided to widen the gap between what they are charging riders and what they're giving drivers as a cut of what they charge the riders. I.e., in Florida, what they did is they raised the rates 10 cents a mile, and instead of giving the drivers 7 or 8 cents of that, they only give us 2 or 3. So there they widen the gap just on the standard fares. Another thing they're doing in some states, as you've already heard from some of the more popular vloggers, is that they are doing something with their surge pricing, which is they are giving a driver a flat rate, a very low flat rate for surges. And even if that surge is a lot higher, Uber's keeping a lion's share amount of that. Now, I spoke in another video I did this afternoon that I don't think that is going to work well for them, but that's what they are doing. They are desperately not trying to narrow the gap between their losses. I mean, Uber lost $5 billion last year on a gross revenue of about $33 billion. That's a huge loss. $5 billion with a B. They can recoup that pretty quickly now by just getting a little bit off of each driver, off of each ride. You have to understand, Uber probably does well over 1 million rides a day. So just imagine a few dollars per ride a day that they recoup in sheer profit. That will narrow the gap quite quickly. And by the time they have their IPO, they probably hope that they'll either come close to breaking even or maybe even eke out a percentage point or two. And remember, 2 or 3% of $33 billion, that's a lot of money in profit that they can start using for, more reinvestment or just to pay their upper echelon. And the reason why Uber didn't care about working at a loss is because the people at the top have already negotiated great salary packages no matter what. They went in there and like the CEO himself, even Travis Kalanick, he was making at least a couple $1 million a year just to be there. Yeah, he got paid very handsomely off the valuation. That was something he had a strategy for. But the new CEO, who has nothing to do with the development of Uber, never had anything to do with the idea, never put any money into it, just called in to supposedly fix things. He is also getting a huge, huge amount of money for just showing up. So those guys don't really care about how the drivers make out. They're not evil. They're not looking at them going, I'm going to make sure these drivers are our slaves. But they do have ways to try to manipulate us to work, a real day, 8, 10, 12 hours a day to make their money. They would rather have us working 8 hours to 12 hours a day, making $4 or $5 or $7 a ride. And, if you want to do that, you can still make $150 to $250 a day as a driver rather than, having drivers make a couple $100 in 4 hours and then skating on them, because then they're not doing the volume that they need. Excuse me. Because most people out there are very, not lazy, but they get comfortable very quickly. There's not too many people that if you make $200 in 4 hours are going to say, well, I'm going to stick around and make 408. Most people, when they make 200, they say, I'm done. I'd rather go play. And Uber knows this. Uber is an entity that's very, very intelligent. They've done their research. They know people's habits. These big corporations know more about you sometimes and your personality than you do, because they've done the research. They research patterns and all that kind of stuff. So that is why Uber now is supposedly what's called ripping off drivers. Is because they need to show profit very soon, or else they're going to have some problems with their investors who may pull out, and then Uber will have to sort of figure out how to do it on their own, which is something they don't want to do. Because even though the CEO and the upper end presidents and all that are getting paid, that payment can be stopped. They're not going to get it. They're not getting it now. They're getting it over time too. So yeah, they may walk away with $10 million in their pocket because they showed up or whatever and try to help out. But the bonuses are mostly tied to the stock market, the big dollars. And if that stock goes south, their package goes south with it. So that is the reason why it looks like Uber is ripping off drivers. Now, what you can do about that, I've heard discussed. A lot of people say, well, you can strike. There won't be enough people out there to strike that'll make any impact. And if there is a decent amount of people, then there's other drivers in there that are going to say, good, now I'm going to make surge money, which is the way I was. I'll admit it. I'm an opportunist. I'm also a survivor. I am the guy that will stay for $400, 8 hours, even though I've made the first 4. So that's the way I am. So that would be the first option. The other one would be like just to tell customers and riders about the situation, but I don't know if they care. All they care about is, it's a cheap ride to work, to whatever, even though now some people are saying that Uber is as expensive as a taxi. And sometimes it is, because Uber does try to trick people into paying way more than they should. So riders, if you're listening to this, be aware of what you're being charged. There's no reason sometimes to be charged the amount of money that Uber charges you, and know that in some markets when Uber will charge you $50 to take a ride, or $100, that the driver's still only getting like $20 something out of that, because that's what they're trying to do now. They're trying to widen the gap between what the driver's cut is and what they're keeping in a desperate attempt to show profitability. So that's that. The other thing you can do as a driver, if you really want to overcome this, look, guys, I'm going to tell you something. If you just drive for Uber, it's a piece of cake. You pick up a rider, you drop off a rider, repeat. The busiest it ever gets is you pick up a rider, you're on the way to dropping off a rider, and then you've got another one waiting. How stressful is that? Not really. What you want to do is you want to do what everybody else does that stresses out at jobs, and you want to make a few more dollars? Work multiple apps. Work 2 or 3, 4 apps at a time. Uber Eats at the same time. I wouldn't recommend that, because Uber Eats tends to stop your momentum when you're doing Uber rides, because Uber Eats payouts are very, very cheap, and sometimes they tie you up. But have the options of doing that. Pick up another one like Grubhub. In some cities, Grubhub is slow. They'll give you a guarantee if you can figure out how to get yourself on some blocks. You can make passive income while you're making income as a driver for Lyft and Uber all at the same time. Do Postmates, DoorDash. If you want to do other stuff, app-driven, that you don't have to worry about a schedule. There's other many things. Instacart, Deliv, Shipt. There's so many apps out there that you could find depending on where you live And I understand if you live in a smaller, you know, area like Peoria, Illinois, which has only a couple 100,000 people there, you know, within their area, it'll be more difficult to find multiple apps. But if you're like in New York City or Chicago, hell, you could be signed up on 12 different apps. I'm in the Tampa Bay area, and right now I'm signed up on 5. You know, Tampa Bay is a relatively large market, but it's not huge. And you can sign up on about up to 7 apps at one time if you want to. You can do Postmates, DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, and Lyft and Uber. Excuse me, I'm still fighting this crud. So there are ways around it if you want to make money for yourself and not think about just Uber being what they are. You know, if you're just going to focus on Uber, you're probably going to lose when it comes to making money, because Uber is only Uber. But if you want to make money, do it like everybody else does at normal jobs. Stress out a little bit. Push it a little bit. Do multiple apps. Stress out. Figure out ways that you can go, oh my God, how am I going to do this one on time and this one? And you'll do it, and it'll all work itself out. And all of a sudden, you're going to see, wow, I made $150 in 5 hours. 206, you know, depending on what market you're in. So that is the way you overcome all this negativity when it comes to, well, this company isn't paying enough. No, they're not going to pay enough. They're not going to pay enough. This is the way it works. It's all volume. They want volume. You want volume. How to get that volume? Work multiple apps. Even if you just do Uber and Lyft at the same time, what happens is if one is slow, the other one will cover you. Happens to me many times. If I do just Uber by itself, it's $13 an hour on the average here when you don't get any surges. And we don't get that many surges in the Tampa Bay area right now, except for a half an hour here and there during bar hours. You add Lyft to that, all of a sudden you're at $16 to $20 an hour, depending on the day. Because now you are constantly busy. Now you're, instead of doing 15 or 18 rides in a 10-hour day, now you're doing 25 or 27. Because you're filling in each other's gaps. And now you're making some money in the same amount of time. Because you stay constantly busy. That is the name of the game. Figuring out how to stay constantly busy. Hell, most other jobs make you work from the time you walk in until you have to take a break, and then from the time you come in from the break to when your day ends. You don't stop. You're not supposed to. It's an 8-hour day. It's called work. It's not called go in there and hang out and make money. Same thing, you guys are your own business owners. There are other ways of doing it. You look at the Simple Driver. He'll show you how to make a lot of money being involved in Uber. And it's not just driving then. One of these days I'm going to actually try that when I get my mind to it. But right now I'm pretty happy just driving. So there's all kinds of ways to do it. So for now, I have to let you go, and we will talk again tomorrow. Y'all have a good night. Peace.